This is the Practicing Christian. This week's report has to do with the question of how practicing Christian men may treat non-Christian women. There are three answers here. First, he must treat her as an instance of God's highest creation, a human, destined for God's kingdom, and worthy of respect. Secondly, he must take delight in her, for she is his mirror. This is what it means for a woman to be created in the image of man. You get an image through a mirror. She is the mirror of the moon, as the moon is of the sun. And in her he may see, and through her may complete himself. Thirdly, he must remember that she is a reflection of the Theotokos, the God-bearer, who as woman carries his male DNA into the future, as all women carry this of all men. The first point tells us that he must treat her with respect, the same respect that he gives a man, who is also human and destined in this world, as well as the next, for the kingdom. She and he might not get there in this life, but all have been called to this. This is what they are working for. This is what they are hoping for. This is what they're praying for. If God calls her, as he calls men to the kingdom, our first obligation is not to see or use any woman as a doormat, a tool, a sex toy, or a drudge. For how can we live a kingdom life with her while despising such a person as she, and help her at the same time find and keep a closer walk with God? Even if we see in any given woman a crazed, manic, egotistical fool, as we might see the same thing in any man, of course, to dismiss her as a candidate for the kingdom, an unworthy candidate, is to say that even God has severe limits in how he can lead, direct, and call people. No matter the condition of that woman, as with no man's condition either, can we say this person will never get to the kingdom. Okay. Now, putting limits on who he can redeem. Don't nitpick here. To write of humanity as God's highest creation is not so much to make a theological value judgment as it is to recognize that we, vain humans, see ourselves as such wherever whether we are or not. Therefore, act as if it behooves practicing Christians to act responsibly as if we and all other humanity are such a pinnacle of God's creation. Act as if you're dealing with somebody who represents the pinnacle of God's creation. The second point is about joy. Often neglected in some repressive descriptions of the Christian life, joy is a promise of God. Woman is an avenue of joy and delight. Mothers tickle their children and play with us and clean up after us, and sisters dare us into new adventures. Aunts feed us whipped cream, ice cream and chocolate, and grandmothers teach us how to cook and how to keep plants alive. We learn constantly things that bring joy into our lives. Wives and lovers unlock our often disbelieved sense of manhood and invite us to our destiny as fathers. Our egos and intellect may tell us that we don't need a woman to be who we are born to be. Our hearts and our experience tell us otherwise. Wisdom teaches us to look for the piece of the puzzle that matches our own rough edges. Mark 10, 6-9, and is one place where we see this, and we are going to build our delight in doing this. All right, a man's mitochondrial DNA passes into his Y chromosome to his sons. In this, woman is necessary as the bearer of this small, and again, read this paragraph now about the paragraph 3 about nitpicking. As Jesus' mother was the Theotokos who bore all of God that came to be in the child Jesus. As each small God we may father grows to become a somewhat at least humbled man, his mother will always treat him as if he were nevertheless capable of becoming a son of God. We see this in Luke 6:35, John 12:34 and 36, Romans 8:14, 23. And if he begets 4 daughters and no sons, or children, but teaches a dozen classes of youth to learn from him, or instructs several young men in the art and science of fishing, he shall have had sons, and likely daughters, and passed on to them the spiritual DNA which he possesses, and which makes a man and makes a woman able to comprehend much of the art and mystery of manhood. We began by asking how a practicing Christian shall treat a non-Christian woman. We did this to emphasize that the bottom line of our practice towards these women shall be decidedly high. With a Christian woman, we have an even greater amount of delight in someone who, as mother or wife, knows our hearts more deeply and clearly than another would, and whose gifts to us will be even more valid and exciting than otherwise. This is someone with whom we may pray and study and speak on a level deeper and stronger than with a woman perhaps acquainted with grief, but acquainted with our sense of redemption. For her, the practicing Christian also gives thanks to God for this greater level of joy. As the writer in Proverbs puts it, verse 28, many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Serve then be the king's right arm.